now we're gonna move on to the doors. And one thing that you check when you look at doors is the consistency of the gap or flushness condition throughout the entire perimeter of the door. The thing with this car is that the door doesn't have any upper and B-pillar trim. So we're just gonna check the profile of the door relative to the body side. Again, you wanna check it at all points along the door to see if it's a consistent gap. So up here, maybe too tight, reduce by half a mil. Again, too tight, we can reduce by another half mil. Okay, as you can see, I started at the top, and then as I moved down, I had to reduce the amount of gauge or stacks that I use on the feeler gauge, which indicates that it's an inconsistent gap. I think the delta between the top measurement and when I got to like a midway point there was less than 1 millimeter, so it's not so bad. Maybe we can check on the bottom of the door now. So let's compare this to the top of the door. This is a 4 millimeter stack. So let's check if I can fit 4 millimeters at the top of the door. So it looks like I can fit another half mil there. So 4.5 here and 4 millimeters at the bottom. So now let's check the front of the door, check the top, check the bottom here. This is slightly tighter, but it's very similar measurement. I can't fit it here. Oh, I can fit it there, yeah. Yep, so this line is very consistent. Now we want to check the flushness of the door relative to the body side. Something to note about checking flushness from front to rear is that the rearward panel to the next consecutive front one should be sub-flush very slightly. This is due to wind noise, so I'll show you an example here. The body side here is the rearward panel. This is the forward panel, and you want this body side to be sub-flush by maybe a half mil. And the reason for that is because if the door was sub-flush and the quarter panel was proud, then you'd have wind noise created at this body line, and the customer would definitely hear that, so that's something you don't want to have. So we're just going to start by checking flushness here with our gauge. I can feel the step of the door with my gauge when I run across it. So this means that this is a good thing, that the door is slightly proud, the forward panel is slightly proud to the rearward one. Check it at a different point along the door. Same condition, 1 millimeter, so that's pretty good. Another point. Again, the door is a little bit proud by 1 millimeter almost, so I'd say the fitment here isn't bad at all. Okay, and then we want to check the door to the front fender for flushness. Again, I can feel the step there, so that means this is slightly proud, which is a good thing. Lower. Feel the step, good thing. And you can predict that it's a similar effect here. Maybe 1.5 mil proud. It's not so bad. The flushness between the fender to the door to the rear quarter panel is pretty good, but we haven't looked at the fender garnish. And now I don't know if this is spec or not, and I would think it's not spec, but you can see with my finger that the fender garnish here is very, very proud to the door. It's about 4 millimeters proud. So this fender garnish is 4 millimeters outward compared to this edge of the door. One thing that we've been checking throughout this whole process, looking at the door, is that we've checked only metal to metal panels. What we want to check is the molding, so the plastics. What you can see, even without touching it, is that this molding here is very proud to this molding. And if I take my gauge, it's 1 millimeter. But then if you move to a panel literally an inch below that, it's perfectly flush. So to the customer, this looks really bad. Like, this looks like this is definitely out of place. We checked the right side, and we want to check it all as a system again, right? So now we're going to check the exact same metrics on the left side. Okay, so we want to check if this will fit somewhere else on the door. So we'll move to the bottom portion of the door. We check the top of the door. I can fit the same gauge stack in this portion of the door as I could on the top, so it's a good thing. We'll check on the bottom. Same story. And I'm gonna guess that I can fit it on the bottom there as well. Same story. So the door is consistently 3.75 millimeters. That was the rear of the door to the quarter panel. Now we're gonna check the fender to the door. Hopefully it's the same 3.5 millimeters. I feel a little bit of looseness over here, so maybe I can add an extra 0.5 millimeter. So yeah, it was an extra ½ millimeter larger, so this is 4.25. Can I fit the same stack? No, I cannot. So take out ½ mil, oh, still too tight. Take out another ½ mil, that's 3 1/4. Check on the bottom. And on the bottom, it's about 3.75 millimeters here. So it's not too bad. We also wanted to check the plastic trim panel here, right? I think visually, I can see that it's a larger gap, but we'll check with the gauges. There's a lot of wiggle room there, so maybe I can add another measurement. Maybe a ½ millimeter. Oh, again, just a ½ millimeter difference. Now let's check the flushness as well. Flush there. Perfectly flush there. This side, I can feel the gauge hit. The door is slightly sub-flush to the fender, which is what you want. We check the back side as well. I can feel the step, so that's good. You can feel the step there, so that's good. And finally, the bottom, and that seems to be pretty flush, so that's not so bad. And it's about a 1 millimeter step here as well, so that's not so bad. So far, we've checked the rear trunk and the door fitment. The doors have a pretty good fit in terms of gap and flushness. Again, I don't know the spec, but relative to each other, they're looking pretty similar. The trunk, on the other hand, it looks like it's shifted 2 millimeters, biased towards the left side. So if you made a shift to center it, it would look much nicer.